Today's news is shaking things up for Cowboys fans, and it all starts with Zion Childress, who has officially been signed by the Houston Texans to their active roster. He's leaving the Cowboys practice squad for a full-time spot on his hometown team, which is a storybook kind of move, considering he grew up in the Houston area. It's one of those situations that makes you stop and think, yes, it stings a little for the Cowboys, but it isn't necessarily a disaster. Childress wasn't seeing action on the main roster yet. He was still developing, learning the ropes, and waiting for his opportunity behind Reddy Stewart, who has quietly been handling the nickel corner responsibilities quite well. Stewart's performance hasn't been flashy, but it's been reliable enough that Childress' path to meaningful snaps was always going to be limited, especially with the potential returns of Savone Revel and Kalen Carson looming on the horizon. From a strategic standpoint, the Cowboys are not losing a cornerstone player, but it's still worth watching how Childress' career unfolds now in Houston. There's always that nagging feeling for fans when a player leaves and immediately seems to find more opportunities elsewhere. And while nobody wants to root against someone's hometown dream, you can't ignore the slight edge of concern. It's a reminder of how delicate roster management is in the NFL. One move, one promotion, and suddenly the depth chart shifts in ways that can ripple across the season. Shifting focus to free agency, the conversation heats up when you start looking at safety options and cornerback depth. Shannon Gardner-Johnson is one of those names that keeps coming up, and it's easy to see why. His best years in Philadelphia were impressive. He's athletic, instinctive, and has a presence that changes how offenses attack the field. He's also one of those players who brings a level of intensity and, frankly, a bit of unpredictability to the game. Sometimes that unhinged edge can turn into game-changing plays, making him exciting to watch and potentially very valuable to a team like the Cowboys, who are struggling in their secondary. But with Gardner-Johnson, as with any high-upside player, there are caveats. His time in Houston highlighted some concerns that cannot be ignored. Multiple blown assignments per game, according to reports, where he failed to adhere to zone principles and allowed big plays. On top of that, there were incidents where he blamed teammates for mistakes and openly criticized others, creating potential chemistry issues in the locker room. He reportedly requested more blitz opportunities and at one point even asked for a trade, signaling that he wants to have a very specific role in the defensive scheme. For a team that is trying to rebuild stability in its defensive backfield, those are significant red flags. Yet, the allure of Gardner-Johnson is still present. The Cowboys have struggled at safety this season, with Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson failing to consistently produce the kind of coverage and playmaking needed to keep up with top-tier offenses. Gardner-Johnson offers the kind of upside that could, theoretically, plug multiple holes at once, giving both coverage ability and a level of intimidation in the box. His track record suggests that if managed properly, and if his role is clearly defined, he could be a high-reward addition to the roster. But it's a delicate balance, and the team has to weigh the potential for disruption against the tangible upgrade he could provide. Justin Simmons is another name that cannot be ignored in this context. Unlike Gardner-Johnson, Simmons brings a more stable, proven track record, even if he's past his prime. Once one of the top safeties in the league, he has seen a natural decline over recent seasons, but he's still capable of contributing meaningfully. His experience and understanding of defensive schemes could offer immediate benefits to a safety room that has been underperforming and perhaps struggling to communicate effectively. The concern with Simmons, however, is age and durability. Turning 32 in November, he's not the long-term answer the Cowboys might be looking for, but he could be a stopgap solution to stabilize the defense while younger players develop. The broader challenge with all of these options is timing. September is not the month where you typically solve roster problems permanently. Most free agent solutions are temporary, emergency measures, or experiments to see what sticks. True roster construction and strategic signings happen in the offseason, when teams have the space, flexibility, and foresight to make long-term decisions. In September, you're often looking at break glass in case of emergency solutions. Players who can fill immediate gaps while you wait for injured starters to return or evaluate internal talent. Cornerback depth is another pressing issue, especially with the injuries and inconsistencies the Cowboys have faced this year. Stephon Gilmore, a veteran with a storied career, remains unsigned and represents another intriguing, if risky, option. Gilmore's experience is undeniable, and when healthy, he can still contribute effectively. However, he's also 35 and has been on a decline trajectory in recent years. The question becomes whether his current level of play matches the Cowboys' needs, especially if the coaching staff is looking for someone who can start over younger, emerging talents when everyone is healthy. There's also the matter of motivation and mindset. Veterans like Gilmore must see the Cowboys as legitimate contenders to commit fully, which adds another layer of uncertainty. Even on the offensive line, depth concerns have emerged following injuries. Players like Mark Lewinsky have been suggested as short-term reinforcements, particularly to replace Tyler Booker while he recovers. Lewinsky's experience and familiarity with some of the current roster could make him a reliable emergency option, though he is not projected to be a long-term starter. In many ways, these scenarios highlight the broader theme for the Cowboys this season: dealing with unexpected absences, evaluating short-term fixes, and trying to maintain competitive balance while planning for a future that may look very different from the present. All of this underscores the precarious nature of NFL roster management. Every move has implications. Every signing, every promotion, every injury reshapes the depth chart and forces tough decisions. For the Cowboys, the challenge is juggling immediate performance needs with long-term development, ensuring that the team remains competitive in the moment while not compromising the future. Zion Childress' departure is just one of many dominoes that have fallen, and how the team responds, whether through free agency, internal promotions, or strategic adjustments, will define not only this season, but potentially the trajectory of a roster for years to come. Moving deeper into the free agent landscape, the conversation inevitably circles back to the Cowboys' secondary, which has been under the microscope all season. When you look at the performance of Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson through the first 3 games, it's clear that the safety room has struggled to maintain consistency. Mistimed coverages, missed reads, and a lack of communication have all contributed to giving opponents advantages in key moments. That's why names like Justin Simmons and Shanna Gardner-Johnson keep surfacing in discussions, because each brings something that the current roster doesn't fully offer. Simmons, even at 32, brings a sense of reliability and experience that can stabilize a secondary in flux. His football IQ and positional awareness are still a level that could immediately impact coverage schemes, even if he's no longer the Pro Bowl caliber player he once was in Denver. Shanta Gardner-Johnson, on the other hand, represents a different kind of gamble. His physical tools and playmaking ability are undeniable, and he has a knack for changing the energy in a game with his aggressive, almost chaotic style. When he's on, he's a force to be reckoned with, capable of big hits, tight coverage, and creating turnovers. But his track record also includes moments of disruption off the field. Missed assignments, internal conflicts, and a history of moving from team to team raise legitimate questions about how he would fit into a locker room that needs stability more than fireworks. It's the classic trade-off. Do you take a high upside, potentially high maintenance player to try and upgrade an underperforming unit? Or do you stick with more predictable, reliable options that may not dramatically improve the current struggles? The answer isn't easy, and that's why this debate has been heating up among Cowboys fans and analysts alike. Stephon Gilmore is another name that often enters this conversation. At 35, he's no longer in his prime, but he carries an immense amount of experience and knowledge of the game. He can read offenses, anticipate plays, and bring leadership to a defensive backfield that desperately needs it. The challenge, however, is whether he still has the speed and agility to compete consistently against younger, faster receivers. One misstep could be costly, especially in a division filled with explosive offensive talent. Yet, if the Cowboys are strategic with his usage, leveraging him in situations where his experience outweighs any physical decline, he could be a valuable piece. There's also the motivational factor. Does he view Dallas as a contender, or is he simply looking for a short-term contract to extend his career? Veteran players often need to see a team's competitive potential before committing fully, and that adds another layer of complexity to any potential signing. Looking beyond the secondary, the Cowboys have to consider offensive depth, particularly with injuries affecting key positions. The discussion around Mark Glowinski as a short-term option at guard reflects this concern. Injuries to players like Tyler Booker have exposed gaps in the roster, and while Glowinski may not be the ideal long-term solution, his familiarity with some of the current roster and professional experience makes him a viable emergency option. In the NFL, having a dependable veteran available can sometimes be the difference between surviving a stretch of tough games or struggling through avoidable losses. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't solve long-term issues, but it's practical, and practicality matters when every game counts. The bigger picture for the Cowboys right now is managing a season that has already thrown a few curveballs. Injuries, player departures, and underperformance in key areas all force difficult decisions. The team has to weigh immediate needs against long-term roster strategy. Do you invest in a player like Gardner Johnson, knowing the potential for high reward but also high disruption? Do you sign Justin Simmons for stability, even if his best years are behind him? Or do you focus on internal development, trusting younger players like Maris Bell and Juan Thomas to step up while navigating the current challenges? Each choice carries implications that extend beyond the next game, impacting team chemistry, salary cap flexibility, and overall strategic direction. Another layer to consider is how the Cowboys approach these signings in terms of risk management. Signing high-profile veterans mid-season can be expensive and might not yield the desired impact, particularly if players are past their peak. Conversely, relying solely on internal options carries its own risk, as younger players may not yet be ready to handle full-time roles under the pressure of the NFL spotlight. This is where coaching and evaluation become crucial. Coaches must determine not only who has the talent, but also who can seamlessly integrate into the system without causing further disruption. Every decision is a calculated gamble, and mid-season adjustments are rarely straightforward. Looking specifically at the defensive backfield, the Cowboys have to contend with injuries, inconsistent play, and the challenge of finding players who can both contribute immediately and potentially develop into longer-term solutions. Depth is thin, and each signing or promotion must be evaluated not just on talent, but on how it affects the overall balance of the team. For instance, adding a player like Gardner Johnson could provide an immediate upgrade, but it may come with trade-offs in cohesion and discipline. Opting for Justin Simmons might improve communication and reliability, but won't necessarily bring game-changing athleticism. The same logic applies to corners like Stephon Gilmore, whose presence could stabilize the backfield, but whose declining physical ability may limit coverage against elite receivers. Ultimately, the Cowboys are navigating a precarious position where every roster decision is magnified. Zion Childress' departure is just one piece of a much larger puzzle that includes secondary performance, veteran signings, injury management, and long-term development. The team's leadership must balance competing priorities, making strategic choices that address immediate gaps without undermining future growth. This is the kind of scenario where scouting, analytics, and coaching philosophy intersect, shaping how the roster evolves over the remainder of the season. Fans are watching closely, weighing the pros and cons of every potential signing, and hoping that management can make the right calls to keep the team competitive while fostering a foundation for sustained success. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what is quickly becoming the offseason's most talked about move, whispers are swirling that George Kittle, one of the NFL's premier tight ends, is set to join the Dallas Cowboys. While nothing has been officially confirmed, sources close to the team suggest that the Cowboys front office has been quietly courting Kittle for weeks, envisioning him as the missing piece in a roster that's been desperate for a game-changing offensive weapon. Fans on social media are already speculating about the explosive potential of pairing Kittle with Dak Prescott in Dallas' high-octane offense, imagining tight passes slicing through defenses and highlight reel touchdowns, lighting up AT&T Stadium. The rumor has sparked a frenzy among Cowboys supporters, many of whom believe that adding Kittle could instantly elevate the team to serious Super Bowl contention. Analysts have been quick to point out that Kittle's combination of size, speed, and blocking ability makes him a rare dual-threat tight end, capable of transforming both the passing game and the ground attack. Meanwhile, other teams reportedly interested in Kittle are said to be evaluating whether they can match Dallas' offer, but insiders hint that the allure of playing in a spotlight city like Dallas, paired with a quarterback who's eager to showcase a star tight end, could be decisive. Of course, skeptics remain. Some caution that Kittle has faced injury concerns in past seasons, and integrating a high-profile player mid-offseason could present challenges for any locker room. Yet, the buzz around this potential signing shows no signs of slowing down. Rumor has it that team executives are considering structuring a deal that balances immediate impact with long-term flexibility, aiming to keep Kittle healthy and explosive when the regular season kicks off. Even without official confirmation, the mere possibility of George Kittle donning a Cowboys uniform has fans and pundits alike buzzing with anticipation. Could Dallas finally have found the weapon that pushes them past the NFC's toughest contenders? For now, the NFL world waits, eyes glued to any hint, any leak that might confirm one of the most tantalizing off-season rumors in recent memory. The Cowboys might just be on the verge of a move that shakes the league. And if it happens, the repercussions could be felt from coast to coast. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.